A very good evening to you and welcome to CoreTV News and this hour. I am Nena Nyama. The Supreme Court has fixed February 5, 2016 for judgment in the appeal filed by Senate President Bukola Saraki against his arraignment at the Court of Conduct Tribunal over alleged false declaration of assets. The former secretary to the government of the Federation, Anyim Paus Anyim, is denied claims by online medium Sahara reporters that he is behind the ongoing pro-Biafra protest in the southeast. The online medium made the claims in a tweet, but Anyim maintained in a statement released by his media aide, Sam Wabasi, that he has no hand in the agitations. He insisted that the one-time Senate president has not sponsored and will never sponsor any protest by any group against the government. Anyim's media aide also noted that his principal is not under any investigation for any such allegation. The police are seeking a new funding mechanism for the operations. Inspector General of Police Solomon Arase said this when he received the Minister of Interior, Abdulrahman Dambazua, at the force headquarters, Abuja. The minister and experts urged the police to be more professional in their approach in carrying out their duties. Following the recent reshuffling in the anti-graft agencies, one of the promises made by the present administration to tackle corruption is seen in the recent arrest of former National Security Advisor Colonel Sambo Dasuki, the chairman African Independent Television Raymond Dokbesi, and former Sokoto State Governor Atahiru Bafarawa by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) for their alleged involvement in the $2.1 billion arms deal. Our correspondent Abosede Omoyi brings us reactions from Nigerians in this report.
In the bid to tackle corruption by the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, former National Security Advisor Colonel Sambo Dasuki, Chairman Africa Independent Television Raymond Dokbesi, and former Sokoto State Governor Atahiru Bafarawa were recently arrested by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for their alleged involvement in the $2.1 billion arms deal. The news about the arrest of the trio of Dasuki, Dokbesi, and Bafarawa has been received by Nigerians and others as prelude to a comprehensive answer to questions asked.
It's very bad. It's corruption. Those are the things that spoil this country. I want to make government go to the root of the matter and deal with them according to how it's supposed to be.
If you look at now, you see queue for filling station. People are suffering, no money. About 3 people or 4 people carry billions and go away. It's not good.
So don't you think it's just something that's vindictive because of what has been happening? Because AIT chairman was against APC at that time. Because of all those publications that were made against Tinubu. How are you sure that it's not because of that?
However, this Nigerian hopes it is not a move by the ruling party to treat its opposition with disdain.
If it is truly that they stole this money from the NSA cover, I want the government to bring them to book.
The big question on the recovery of fund by EFCC, these Nigerians have this to say.
I think the people should be brought to book, collect the money that they took for the arms, and use it to buy the arms. If it remains, let them channel it to other areas.
Children from universities everywhere, they are lacking jobs. They should use that money to build factories or offices for unemployed youths.
If the police collected the money back, they should face prison now. Abi, there is no Nigeria.
All eyes are on the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to ensure that the law takes its course and corruption rooted out of Nigeria. Abosede Omoyi, CoreTV News, Lagos.
The anticipated December 4 ruling on the case between the deputy governorship candidate of Kogi State, James Faleke, and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has continued to bring more reactions. The case, which has steered a divergence in the legal framework of the Nigerian system, has been on for over 2 weeks with many controversies. Some civil society groups have even called on the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, and INEC Chairman Mahmoud Yakubu to resign their appointment, saying their stance on the state election was discrediting. A legal practitioner, Adiola Okpeyemi, not minding the alleged mistake by INEC, says the ruling cannot be predicted and that the People's Democratic Party stands no chance in being declared winner unless a fresh election holds.
I don't know the premise on which Faleke pressed his charges. And as far as I'm concerned, I believe that the court will do justice to whatever claims he had. If his claim is based on Section 181 and Section 179, well, I doubt if he can jail. But if his case is based on the fact that INEC has already committed an error by declaring that election inconclusive, INEC ought to have corrected their mistakes. But because we are too arrogant in this nation, no institutions, no agencies of the government wanted to accept mistake, apologize, and do the needful.
The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Mahmood Mohammed, has warned newly appointed Federal High Court judges to be wary of antics of politicians. The CJN issued a warning on Wednesday in Abuja while administering the oath of office on the judges. Justice Mohammed said out of over 2,000 that applied for the position, only 30 were conceded after thorough examination. Judiciary correspondent Basil Lukafo reports.
One after another, they swore to be fair, honest, and to discharge their duties without fear or favor. Their family, friends, associates were on hand to witness their promotion to higher position. In his speech, the Chief Justice urged them to uphold professional ethical conduct and not to use their new position for personal gain.
That said, given the current situation in the country, the judiciary role as neutral, impartial arbiter has never been so crucial. I urge your Lordship and all other judicial officers not to allow themselves to be used as pawns by our various politicians in the quest for power. The law is not obedient to any man but itself. By contrast, all men must obey the laws of the land.
Some of the judges who spoke to journalists at the end of the occasion pledged to be impartial arbiters.
I feel very glad. I feel privileged to be picked among the many to be a judicial officer of the Federal High Court. And I will do my best as the judge of the Federal High Court to dispense justice freely and fairly.
I feel elated. It's a call to more duty and responsibility to Nigerians. And as you've heard, we're supposed to uphold the Constitution and the rule of law. That is our duty now.
The new Federal High Court judges were advised not to betray the trust of Nigerians and those who could screen them. Basil Okafo, CoreTV News, Abuja.
You're still watching CoreTV News in this hour. We'll take a break now, return with more stories. To stay with us.
This is what the people are saying.
You don't run a big economy with generator. They need to do more in terms of energy and power.
Many things to do for this Nigeria about lights, water, and new TT.
For Nigerians that are not gullible, we know that good laws have done nothing good for this country.
Buhari won the election convincingly.
Talk to your husband that you should keep promise about what you said, and because people are watching you, you know, another election is coming.
Also, some people will stand for Yoruba land, will be strong man. You don't die.
This nation is moving forward. The best is going to take place.
The people giving voice to the voiceless.
Glad to have you back. It's still CoreTV News in this hour. For more of the news stories and information, join us on the social media platforms, facebook.com/CoreTV News. On Twitter, CoreTV News NG. And on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/CoreTV, Leave Space News. The federal government is convinced that the lingering fuel shortage across the country will be over in a matter of days. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, made this known on Wednesday when he paid a courtesy visit to the corporate office of Daily Trust newspapers in Abuja. His media aide, Segun Adeyemi, quoted him in a statement as saying that approval of subsidy payment by the National Assembly has paved the way for adequate fuel supplies. The minister also assured Nigerians that the kind of fuel scarcity that triggered long queues across the country would no longer repeat itself. The Senate is to investigate allegations of misappropriation of 1 trillion naira at the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TET Fund, between 2011 and 2015. The decision to probe the body follows a motion by the senator representing Niger North, Aliyu Sabi, on gross mismanagement of education tax fund. The motion raised concerns over alleged diversion of about 200 billion naira education tax collected between 2012 and 2013 in the face of dilapidated infrastructure in tertiary institutions. A National Assembly correspondent, Basi Aye, has more in this report.
The only prayer sought by the sponsor of the motion was that the Executive Secretary of TET Fund must appear before the Senate to clarify issues surrounding the allegations. This is with regards to what the Senate termed contravention of several sections of the 2011 Act that established the fund.
We are living in a world today that is knowledge intensive. If you look at the ICT, which is services, all these areas means that our universities must measure up to internationally accredited standards. On this note, Mr. President, I urge my colleagues to look at the submission I have made thus far carefully and lend their support to this motion.
This lawmaker representing Delta South Senatorial District sees the probe as an indictment on the Senate, which is tasked with passing the budget and ensuring compliance. But his colleague from Abia North wanted the probe to include past years, which was rejected.
Even on the face of the motion has moved, I have some concerns, because if we are talking about budgeting, a whopping sum of money, budgeting is done by here, by the National Assembly. Yes. So it's self-indictment, because the budgeting process was done here. That's my concern number one. Concern number two, I'm a little bit worried about the happenings in this country. When you talk about investigating the activities of government in the past, you limit it to a particular period. It's not nice. It's not nice. You are talking about between 2011 and 2015. What happened before 2011? Was it okay? If what happened before 2011 is okay, state it. So in my humble view, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, we need to go far, far beyond 2011.
The motion was referred to the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TET Fund for further legislative action. Basi Aye, CoreTV News, Abuja.
Also, the Senate has overturned the decision by the Nigeria Customs to lift the ban on importation of rice through the country's land border. This was on the basis of recommendations made by the Ad Hoc Committee on Import Duty Waivers, Concessions and Grants in a report presented by Senator Tayo Alaosadura. They say the current mode of airlifting rice supply should be maintained to control influx and protect local rice production. The Senate also want policies on agriculture to be sustained.
Strongly advise the Nigerian Customs Service to sustain the lifting of the importation of rice to the land borders and continue to operate to the sea borders. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
A bill for an act to prohibit frivolous petitions and other matters sponsored by Deputy Senate Leader Bala Nala has passed second reading. It is focused on defining what petitions that fall in this category, as well as set appropriate sanctions for those who may be culpable. Soliciting support for the bill, the senators say it will ensure that individuals and governments are shielded from the negative tendencies of frivolous petitions and curb wastage.
Where we are today, because we gave so much importance to issues that ordinarily fall outside the envelope of institutional safeguard. And this has negatively turned our civil service into a huge embarrassment, with the greatest respect. I'm therefore of the opinion that this is a very straightforward matter that this Senate will lend its support to, so that we can reverse the ugly situation that this country has found itself at the moment.
There are sometimes Nigerians write petitions against even the government to international agencies and organizations for matters that can be dealt with within our laws. And then certain of these things give our country a lot of bad image. And then we need to begin to deal with some of these things, so that it's not only protecting the individuals, we must also protect the government, from some of these kind of petitions. So if you are writing a petition, whether within or outside Nigeria, there must be a procedure. And I suggest strongly that one of those petitions, that it must be accompanied by an affidavit.
At the period of this economic adversity, if you have 2,000 petitions and then you have to deploy people to investigate them, they will cost billions and millions of dollars. If at the end the entire 2,000 are found to be frivolous, one, you would have deployed able-bodied men into useless ventures, and two, the country would have lost a lot of money. And at a period like this, when the oil price is below $40, it means that we will be saving a lot of money for this country if we can reduce this.
The House of Representatives has passed the 2015 supplementary budget of 574.5 billion naira. This comes a day after a similar move in the Senate. The figure is 108 billion naira more than the request made by President Muhammadu Buhari earlier in the month. Our correspondent Jamil Afegbua reports on this and other proceedings in the House.
Leader Femi Gbajabiamila moved a motion for the supplementary budget to be read a third time, and without debate, the federal lawmakers passed the bill.
From the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation, the total sum of 574,532,726,857 naira only for additional recurrent non-debt expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December 2015, be read a third time. I so move.
Also considered on Wednesday was the decline in basic and secondary education. The motion was raised by Representative Mohammed Usman, who noted that learning outcomes in the basic and secondary education levels had become low.
The House also notes that learning outcomes in the basic and secondary education levels have been low, as expert studies show that less than 30% of primary school pupils pass the common entrance examination, and Nigeria's participation in the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO Monitoring Learning Achievements exercises in 1996, 2003 and 2007 show that Nigerian students' performance was the weakest on the African continent.
For some of the members, it was time to invest some of the counterpart funds in the education sector, while others argued that some portions of the bill presented Nigeria in a bad light.
Granted that we have infrastructural decays in public primary schools and even secondary schools, but the reasons are not far-fetched. UBEC has a slush fund. 2% from the Consolidated Revenue Fund is always used to fund UBEC, the first line charge. But the counterpart funding coming from states have limited the use of those funds. In other words, what happens with UBEC funding is that when you have a project that will spend 200 million, for instance, you need to drop 100 million. Then UBEC will fund the balance.
We have castigated the national examinations. Most private schools in Nigeria today are not writing the Nigerian examinations anymore. They are rather registering their students for international examinations. And the same students, when they are registered for international examinations, make some of the best results across the world. So I keep wondering what the rationale is for us claiming that all the time when students make good results that it is because of exam malpractice. We have intelligent students in Nigeria. We have schools that take out time, especially in the private sector, that take out time to prepare students for examination. So it's not right to make sweeping statements like students don't pass examination because of, WAEC is not doing well because of examination malpractice.
As much as I want to urge the federal government to increase funding of basic education in this country, which is the responsibility of government, though, I also want to say, as they fund education, they should also supervise it. There's a saying that people do what you inspect and not what you expect. So it's not enough to tell government to fund education and not inspect it.
For Representative Aliu Magaji, public schools should be made to look like they used to be in the past.
I will not be wrong if I said about 90 to 80% of people sitting in these chambers, honorable members, pass through the public primary and secondary schools. We were not privileged to go to private schools. And I'm sure we'll all remember how well these schools were maintained, how the infrastructure were, good classroom, good teachers, and basically there are only two things required in obtaining education: is the teacher and the student. The infrastructure, classroom comes later.
The motion was thereafter referred to the Committee on Basic and Secondary Education for action. Meanwhile, 14 bills, including the Broadcast Practitioners Bill, were presented for first reading. Jamil Afegwa, CoreTV News, Abuja.
And now to Taraba State, the government has received 9.4 billion naira's bailout fund from the federal authorities. Governor Darius Ishaku's chief of staff disclosed this at a news conference which had in attendance the union labor leaders. Our correspondent Uduak Godwin has details from Jalingo.
Taraba State government applied for bailout of about 37.7 billion naira, which was to take care of all outstanding salaries and allowances of civil servants as well as gratuities of retired states and local government workers. The federal government, however, rejected the inclusion of local government liabilities in the request and granted 9.5 billion naira to the state. The fund, which was disbursed in November, raised a dust by labor union who demand for the immediate settlement of their claims on the belief that the bailout fund was meant to settle outstanding salaries and other entitlements. But according to the state government, outstanding salaries of local government workers amounting to about 2.3 billion naira was rejected by the federal government, which wants the liabilities sorted out through their joint account.
The bailout fund was not a grant to the state, but a fund made available to relieve the state governments of the bank overdraft facilities, which resulted from the continued borrowing by the state government to pay salaries over the months since this administration took over huge debts in terms of term loans and overdrafts, and which meant that our monthly share of the federation account only went in to service the bank overdrafts left behind by the previous administration.
Giving a breakdown of the bailout, he said the 9.5 billion naira will be used partly to service a bank overdraft of 6 billion naira.
It must be pointed out here that Taraba State has already commenced repayment of this facility to the federation account at an interest rate of 9% per annum, so it must not be seen as free fund to the state.
The labor leaders, however, observed that there was misconception on the bailout and expressed optimism on the way forward.
We got the explanation quite all right. We've already told the government representative that we have had them very well, we understood, but we will go and brief our members. We are yet to call our Congress to be able to brief our members. So a decision will be taken at the Congress.
However, the state government has assured the union of its readiness to make appropriate recommendations. Udwa Godwin, CoreTV News, Jalingo.
Former Minister of Finance Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala has requested the federal government to call Edo State Governor Adams Oshiomhole to order over the governor's recent efforts to link her name to the alleged $2.1 billion arms issue. The former minister stressed that she has absolutely nothing to do with the issue. She stated that it is an abuse of public office, the judicial process and her human rights for Governor Oshiomhole, whom she stopped from taking a highly suspicious 15 billion naira loan to make false allegations against her while hiding behind the constitutional immunity granted state governors. She said it is unconscionable for the governor to embark on a campaign of lies against her because she thwarted his dubious loan request. An international aid group, Oxfam, has called on government institutions and corporations to implement policies that will address inequality in the society. Oxfam Country Director Jan Roge said at a one-day national policy dialogue on inequality in Nigeria that the poor and downtrodden should be provided with social safety net, which entitles them to remittances or cash transfers. We'll take another break now, return with more stories. To stay with us.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to CoreTV Primetime News.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then News. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Glad to have you back. On the foreign scene, Oscar Pistorius has been found guilty of the murder at River Steenkamp after South Africa's Supreme Court overturned the previous conviction of culpable homicide. Judge Eric Illich ruled today that the Paralympic gold medalist should have foreseen that his firing of a gun would have killed whoever was behind the door, regardless of whether he thought it was Steenkamp or an intruder. Pistorius shot girlfriend River Steenkamp, immodeled 4 times through a locked toilet door on Valentine's Day 2013, saying he mistook her for an intruder. His jail term is yet to be decided, but he faces up to 15 years in prison. 2 suspects have died in a gun battle with police as authorities say the burst into a holiday party at the Center for People with Developmental Disabilities and killed 14 people. The violence began around 11 a.m. at the convention building at the Inland Regional Center, where employees with the County Health Department were attending a holiday event. Witnesses said at least 2 shooters opened fire. The 2 suspects who were killed were Syed Farkum, age 28, and Tashfin Malik. The police has, however, been able to establish that they were in a relationship, but could not ascertain if they were married. Nigeria's hopes of progressing to the semi-finals of the Under-23 African Cup of Nations and the Olympic tournament in Brazil were dented by Egypt as the 2 sides drew 2-2 in their Group B match in Malba, Senegal. Nigeria went into the second match of their group knowing a win would be enough to go through to the last 4. At halftime, they were in line for victory, leading 2-0, but Egypt came out fighting after the break, scoring twice in 5 minutes to level proceedings. The team will have to get at least a draw with Algeria for any chance of progressing. And finally, 2 FIFA vice presidents have been arrested in a dawn raid at a Swiss hotel on suspicion of accepting millions of dollars of bribes. CONCACAF President Alfredo Howitt and CONMEBOL President Juan Angel Napot were taken from the hotel, where several FIFA officials were also arrested in May. The U.S. Department of Justice said the arrest is part of its ongoing investigation into corruption in football's world governing body. Howitt, age 64, is the interim president for North Central American Caribbean football, while Napot, age 57, oversees football in the South American Confederation. They are alleged to have taken money for selling marketing rights in connection with football tournaments in Latin America, as well as World Cup qualifying matches, the Swiss Federal Office of Justice. FIFA's Reform Committee Chairman Francois Carrad said at a news conference in Zurich that the arrest is a very important step as part of changes so far, so FIFA can renew itself. And that's it on CoreTV News and this hour. Thank you so very much for watching. I am Nena Nyama. Good evening.